everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
Great Christmas tune there, Dwayne. Albert was talking about, kissing by the mistletoe while you're also cooking dinner and other things happening and things going sideways. And next thing you know, you got a fire and the house is on fire. And so, you've got an insurance claim and everybody's out for Christmas. So, common sense, right? Do one thing at a time. Christmas time, people like to enjoy the festivities, but just take the patience and do things one step at a time. But some of the other liabilities, Gord, that are out there, Christmas time, we're at a season where there are going to be slip and fall hazards. Those become general insurance liabilities for strata corporations if they haven't been salting and cleaning sidewalks and areas. And how does that get covered under a policy if somebody actually does fall coming up the front steps of the strata building and they're seriously injured?
The strata policy has a general liability policy for that, for the bodily injuries and property damage. So that's covered by the strata corporations.
Right.
Having said that, being covered, we've got to make sure that, we've seen claims where, sprinkler systems aren't, winterized early enough, and sprinklers going off,
right.
in December, and then, it freezes overnight, and you get a slip and fall claims. It is covered, but, you got to look after the general public, that's out there, right? You don't want them to be injured or things like that.
Well, and the strata faces other risks if they're not maintaining their property. So you have broken sidewalks coming up to the front area, or handrails coming up the front stairs that are broken and falling. And the strata will assume some liabilities if they're not actually maintaining their property as well.
Yeah, I mean, we think that, once we start seeing those claims come through, and, it's interesting that you can go into buildings where well managed, and then you can see buildings like that where there's claims, and then an inspection gets done, and how simple things, tiles are broken that needs to be replaced on stairs, railing, like you say, Tony, that needs to be screwed back on, and just the lack of maintenance. And I think those are the stratas that Dan talked about earlier. Doesn't have the budget that's, budgeted properly to do those basic necessities that's needed. Forget about upgrading, so your building, looks as up to date.
Well, and Dan, older balcony rails, fasteners on older balcony rails that have rusted out. We've certainly had problems with that.
Accidents, people falling off. Yes, of course. Terrible.
Yeah.
And that comes through inspection, identifying those things. But this time of year especially, it's more logistics of how do you get the salt spread? Like, who's going to do it? Your landscaper or a caretaker or a volunteer that you can rely on? Those are important things to do. The cost is minuscule, especially when you put it proportional to any claims, right?
Well, and compare that if you advance plan so that you know who's going to do it and they're going to be available and they're going to be on site versus wait till we get a blizzard or freezing rain and then you're trying to find somebody to do it. It's, the cost difference is phenomenally different.
Yeah, and the planning and the delivery of the salt and all that's occurred in October, November, right?
Yeah. And don't store your salt in your electrical room.
They don't like that.
Every building I go to, you go to the electric room and you see bags of salt for winter salting stored in the electrical rooms. It's just so corrosive atmospherically to the components in the buildings.
But it's dry and warm in there.
I know it's dry. Buy some pails, find a place, put them in the pails, but don't put them in the electrical rooms. Yeah. So my turn for 3 checklists here.
Okay,
so
let's go.
three big issues. I think the first issue that and my concern about these are going to be frequent flyer problems with the tribunal. These will be the kind of things people complain about at the tribunal. Strata councils have to get into the habit of council meetings being business meetings. Sure. What are the decisions we have to make? Let's not be wasting our time on the minuscule debates of issues, but what are the real business decisions we have to make? Make decisions and have minutes recorded about how council made the decisions.
I love that one.
Yeah, and including, I think you'll love these actually.
Okay, good.
And including things like bylaw enforcement. If we're imposing a fine against someone, make a decision about it because council can't delegate that responsibility to anybody, and enter into the minutes that fines were imposed for the following conditions. Doesn't necessarily have to specify the strata lot numbers. The strata will have a separate list of receivables to deal with those those things. But councils have to actually make decisions about this. An insurance deductible is a good example. If an owner is responsible, well, who deemed that the owner was responsible? At some point, it has to be the strata. Who is the strata council? They have to make a decision so the property manager and the strata council has the ability to collect this, and so that the owner has the ability to go to their homeowner insurer and try to get the deductible paid for. So, make decisions, record them in the minutes so that people actually know what's going on. I think my second big wish is that people actually stop referring to the Act as guidelines. I just cannot describe the number of complaints we have about strata councils and managers who say, well, the Act is just a guideline for us. We will run our business based on our decisions. And it's not true. The Act is not a guideline. It's a legal document. It is the law, and you are required to comply with the Act, any other enactment of law, including Human Rights Code. And it's going to get stratas into a lot of trouble as we're moving forward into tribunal, because it's going to be very easy access to be able to deal with disputes. And then the last one is the formality around annual general meetings. So this year I've chaired close to 100 general meetings. Many of them are court ordered. They're requested by a number of independent parties because there are problems. A number of years ago, we had a decision that pointed out clearly in Supreme Court that strata corporations have to protect secret ballots. They need ballot boxes, they need voting booths, they need to deal with meetings at a level of formality. I'm surprised at how many buildings are not using proper ballots, not using voting booths, not using ballot boxes, not appointing scrutineers to count ballots, not reporting the ballots correctly, not reporting it in the minutes correctly. AGM procedures, annual general meetings, special general meetings, or meetings petitioned by owners can have far-reaching impacts in the multi-millions of dollars over the long term. This is a major corporation. I think, Dan, you said that at the beginning. This is not a casual relationship. This is a major corporation where people are making decisions that impact everybody's lives every day. So, we need formality to be able to do that, because we'll see a lot of challenges around general meetings once the tribunal is up and running.
And I don't want to, we so love volunteer councils. I mean, to put your name forward, to actually put the time aside, I love it. So I premise my comment with the love and admiration of what council members do. But please, if you're going to step forward on council, treat it like a job. Treat it like a business. Take the time to get educated. Educate yourself. At least know that your own bylaws and rules, right? Be organized, that you always have that at all of your meetings. Go to CHOA and PAMA seminars and educate yourself. Invest in this. You are elected to run a corporation, and think about it that way. What other corporation would put elect its board of directors on the very fact that you have a share in the company? Nobody. I mean, you're going to be should be elected on your skills and abilities.
Well, and every council member should have a operations binder.
Yeah.
Right? If council members don't have a copy of the bylaws, the insurance policy, the annual budget, the minutes of the last meetings, the minutes of the annual general meetings, how do they know what authority they have to make decisions?
Contact list, emergency water shutoff,
right?
Emergency power.
But at council meetings, they don't have the records and the documents in front of them to be able to make competent decisions, which is it contributes to a lot of delays. And it creates a lot of problems. So, just generally across the board, strata corporations need to kind of get their game up a bit. They need to be a little more formal in how they make decisions, the outcomes of those decisions, recording them, reporting them, and then the impact of their general operations for their strata.
And also some emphasis also on ownership. I don't know how many times that the owners are not apprised of the bylaws or the rules, but also when we take the time to send out an agenda package for a meeting a week in advance, how many people are actually showing up without it, and others that are only opening it at the meeting. And that's the time we send it out a week in advance to council members and to owners, so they can prepare, they can ask questions, and you're making decisions. And that's why you ought to take the time to read it in advance, get your questions aligned, so that at the meeting answers can be given to you.
Well, and owner apathy is a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like we still have stratas that rarely get a third of their owners out at general meetings to make decisions. And that's a problem. And it's a problem for stratas where one person, is collecting 20 or 30 proxies and they're targeted because things seem to be unfair. But on the other hand, if they don't collect proxies, there's never a quorum and there's problems with the meetings. So, it's an ongoing challenge for strata corporations. Owner involvement is just a critical thing to do as we go forward. I'm Tony Giventu. This is QuayPacific's StrataLife on 650 Experts on Call, and we'll be right back after these messages.
This is Experts on Call on CIL 650.